Hey.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome back, Misfits, and welcome back to a new episode. Today, we're continuing the She Is series.
She sure is.
Yes, we hope you enjoyed last week's episode. We loved recording that and just really vibing with this whole series in general, so we hope that you're enjoing that.
We love talking about women.
Yeah, we like to talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a woman thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're continuing the series today, and we're going to talk about the Proverbs 31 woman.
Yes.
Which is
Proverbs
a big,
31.
People like to talk about
Very
this.
monumental,
Yes.
very inspirational.
Yes.
There's just a lot of knowledge and aspiration.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation about her. There's a lot of sermons. There's a Proverbs 31 ministries. It's everywhere. Okay.
There's books. There's all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. There's a needlepoint pillow. There's
mugs.
There's all sorts of stuff. But that's what we're gonna talk about today. And first off, we just want to start by saying that it's a great chapter in Proverbs. Proverbs, it's amazing, but it's a great chapter and everyone should definitely read it. With that being said, know that all the things mentioned are not attainable at the same time.
Yeah.
Also know that Proverbs is a book of wisdom, and these are not promises per se, nor are they commandments that must be followed, right?
Right.
And we're going to get into that in a second, just so you actually, because you're telling me all the stuff that it's not, Fran. Yes, but we will tell you what it is in a second. Just hold on.
There's a reason for that.
Yes. So again, it's not meant to be an idol or a to-do list, and there is a lot we can take away, from the overall message of this chapter. So bear with us. We're about to read the whole thing in the NLT, just so you know, starting at verse 10 through verse 31. And the Bible says, "Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She is more precious than rubies. Her husband can trust her, and she will greatly enrich his life. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She finds wool and flax and busily spins it. She is like a merchant's ship, bringing her food from afar. She gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household and plan the day's work for her servant girls. She goes to inspect a field and buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She is energetic and strong, a hard worker. She makes sure her dealings are profitable. Her lamp burns late into the night. Her hands are busy spinning thread, her fingers twisting fiber. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy. She has no fear of winter for her household, for everyone has warm clothes. She makes her own bedspreads. She dresses in fine linen and purple gowns. Her husband is well known at the city gates, where he sits with the other civic leaders. She makes belted linen garments and sashes to sell to the merchants. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. When she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instruction with kindness. She carefully watches everything in her household and suffers nothing from laziness. Her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty does not last, but a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. Reward her for all she has done. Let her deeds publicly declare her praise."
Just sit with that for a minute.
Yes.
There's so much to
She is
unpack
all these
there
things.
and all to talk about. And which is why we wanted to preface it with the whole, it's not a to-do list. It's not a commandment to do all these things, but it's a beautiful thing. And again, like the book of Proverbs is wisdom. These are things that are good.
Yes.
And you can strive for. So all good things, all good things. Okay, so now we're going to go into what this passage is versus what we said initially, what it's not. So this proverb, this is thought to be a heroic poem, and it is described as an acrostic in Hebrew. A heroic poem means that it is singing the praises of someone, in this case, a godly woman, and an acrostic means that it's a poem or a word puzzle. This poem is meant to do two things. One, it's meant to be an example for women to follow, and two, it's meant to remind men of the kind of wife they should seek.
Right. So it's not a to-do list, as we had said.
Right,
yes.
right. It's an example.
It's kind of like a nice picture
yes.
for you to look at and be like, oh, that's lovely. I would like to do that.
Yeah. How can I do some of that?
Right,
or attain,
exactly.
Work towards that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, we know this woman is doing a lot, right? Like we just talked about a lot of the things that she was doing. she's killing it. She's working, providing. She's like a business owner, right?
Yeah, she's
making
staying
garments.
up late. She's not afraid of
She's
anything.
up
She's lost in the
early.
face of fear.
Yeah, like she's brave, the whole
Right.
thing. Like she does all sorts of things. So to the question we've all asked ourselves, or you've asked yourselves, is this attainable? Can like I be this woman? So we don't think that this is necessarily a goal, right? Like we said, like we're not trying to reach to be all these things. It's not a to-do to mark off and be
because
like,
the one thing that they didn't say is that she's tired.
Yeah,
they didn't say that. She is tired.
she got angry when she had to stay up late, her feet hurt, that kind of thing. So it's not a goal to like meet all of these things that this woman is. This woman basically sounds perfect, right? Like she goes to bed late, gets up early, does all the things, and is just happy. But we do think that the Bible is telling us that these are the characteristics of a godly woman and the type of woman that we should aspire to be. So these are all things that we can work towards, right? Note that this chapter doesn't point out she was born this way. Like, oh, she's always been this way. She's so good at all this stuff.
Yeah, we don't know her age either.
Right, we don't know her age. So that just tells us, like, we know it's a process. It's not saying that she was always like this. Like, this is a moment in time, too. And we know that perfection is not the goal, but it's rather the refinement, right? Like, we know that this is a process that she's going through and she's doing all these things, but same way that God works in us. So we're letting God work in us to be able to reach some of these things, right? So this proverb also doesn't paint her as, it doesn't talk about like, oh, she had a spotless house. She's perfectly dressed, like her kids never get in trouble or do anything wrong. In fact, the focus here is not even about her like being married and having the kids. It's all about like her heart posture and all the things that she's doing like in her life, right? Like just the characteristics of her life, not the things that she has necessarily. So what do we want to point out is that most important thing that this woman is doing in all of these verses is that she fears the Lord. And as we mentioned before, we're not talking about fear as in scared. It's about that respect and reverence. And if you've read Proverbs before, that's like chapter 1. It's talking about the fear of the Lord, and it's about that respect and reverence to God. So in the same way, this Proverbs 31 woman, that's her posture. That's her goal. Like it's about the fear of the Lord and what she's serving.
Right. So because when we read it, it's telling us all of these things that she's doing, and in your head, and you're like, oh my God, this is a lot of stuff. This is a lot of stuff. And then at the end, it says that she fears the Lord. So if the fear of the Lord is respecting the Lord and having reverence for the Lord for his amazingness and his power, then it tells us that everything that she's doing above that line is in reverence to the Lord. So it's not that she's doing all of these things. It's that, like Yadi said, the posture behind these things. So I'm doing all of this thing for the Lord.
Yes. Yeah. Because I respect, and it's reverence, and it's coming out of her heart.
It's worship.
Yes.
Yeah.
So of all the things she's doing, putting God first is the most important thing, right? That's where the heart posture comes, and that's where the fear of the Lord comes. When your relationship with God is right, everything else falls into alignment. So as we're reading all of this about all her characteristics, again, going to that last part where she goes to she fears the Lord, that's where all the rest comes in.
Yes.
That's where it all falls under. It's because she had the fear of the Lord, and she's not doing it to show off or to be better than anyone. It's about that heart posture and that relationship that she had with God. Yes,
because it would be a totally different chapter if it was just like she did all of these things and that was it. And that like was it's just not teaching us anything.
Right.
And once we read the list of things that she's doing, and then it says that she feared the Lord, then we can understand like, oh, okay, she's doing this all in worship and in service of God. So it just talks about her heart posture. So we hope that this made sense and that it just makes a little bit more sense in regards to who this woman is and why this Proverbs 31 woman is like so spoken about, because sometimes it is preached as like, this is a woman that we should be, right? And when you read it, it's not attainable. Like, I get it. And like Yadi said specifically, it's a moment in time, right? And it's this could be a consensus, like this could be a paragraph that it could be her entire life. Like this woman died at 305 and this is all the stuff that she did. So let's not compare ourselves to the Proverbs 31 woman, but let's take information from it and just progress and potentially do things that she's doing in order to build and shape our character in a more godly fashion. And again, the other thing that we mentioned as well was that this is an example for men on the type of wife that they should be seeking, right? because it's a beautiful picture, right?
Yes,
It's a godly picture. And so it's just an example that is in the Bible for us to like look at and just kind of evaluate ourselves, but not a measuring stick.
Right.
Yeah.
Because even as men seeking a wife or wanting, or even if you're, already married and looking to your wife to be these things, quote unquote, it's not. It's is she fearing the Lord as she's doing these things, as she's developing these characteristics, as she's, doing her job, as she's helping her kids, as she's taking care of the household, like all these things, like is her heart, in the right place?
Right.
Is her relationship with God right? And kind of like what we talked about the last episode, like what are you doing as a husband in the household to help her out in that, role together,
right. Are you submitted to God? Are you leading your household? Because it's definitely a team.
Yeah.
And we all have to do our parts, because if not, then one of the Jenga blocks is going to fall out of place. Yeah, definitely. So we hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we hope that you loved learning about the Proverbs 31 woman. And we'll be back next week with another episode of She Is. This is Fran.
This is Yadi.
We are the Midtown Misfits, and we will see you next week.
Peace.
Bye.